بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين المصطفى أبي القاسم محمد،
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد،
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
ليل به ضاءت الدنيا بسيدته، ليل به ضاءت الدنيا بسيدة لم يخلق الله هذا الخلق لولا، هي البتول وما أحلى اسمها بفمي، هي البتول وما أحلى اسمها بفمي، هي الزكية بنت المصطفى إن شعشع الصبح صامت عن لذائذها، أو عسعس الليل قامت في مصلاها، فسورة الكوثر اختصت بها شرفا، وحسبها سورة تسمو بعلياء لمثل أن يحصي مآثرا. وكيف لي شرح نبذ من سجايا والله فضلها، والله طهرها، والله زكاها، والله زوجها، والله أصدقها، وخطبة العقد فوق العرش فالله شرفها، والله فضلها، والله طهرها، والله زكاها، والله زوجها، والله أصدقها، وخطبة العقد فوق العرش ألقاها. جود ساغ منهلها، من جاء عاطشا يحظى برياها، هذه شفيعة يوم الحشر سيدة النسوان، قد فاز من بالقلب ولاها. فطمت من العذاب محبيها وأبناء ربيبة وحي الله قد فطمت من العذاب محبيها وأبناء هذه خزانة سر الله فاطمة هذه خزانة سر الله فاطمة طوبى لشيعتها تبا لأعداها.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
In a few days, inshallah, maybe around on Sunday, we'll be celebrating the birth of this great lady, السيدة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء صلوات الله وسلامه عليها, the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
When the Prophet's son Ibrahim died, he was in grief, he was in pain, he cried. One of the mushrikeen, a man by the name of Al-As ibn Wa'il, approached the people and said, great, we don't have to worry about Muhammad anymore, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, for he has no sons left, and therefore the minute he dies, there is no one to carry on with his message. Finish. Now the Prophet ﷺ was hurt by these words. He's just lost his son, and instead of someone coming to comfort him, to offer him some condolences, rather here is this person mocking him, making fun of him. So he was hurt. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this surah, Surah Al-Kawthar. Told him, Ya Rasulullah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar. We have given you Al-Kawthar. Al-Kawthar means Al-Khayr al-Kathir, lots of abundance, lots of blessings, lots of things, abundant blessings. فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. Be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't worry about what those people say. Don't worry about people like Al-As ibn Wa'il. إِنَّ شَانِئَكَ هُوَ الْأَبْتَرُ. The person who's mocking you, his progeny will disappear, but your progeny will remain. And therefore, at the time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala named الزهراء salamullahi alayha as Al-Kawthar. She is the great blessings, the abundant blessings. And indeed, today, we see, mashallah, the Sayyids in the world, the progeny of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, all over the world. You go to India. I even met a Sayyid from Malaysia. He said, I am a Sayyid from Malaysia. Malaysian Sayyid. And now, alhamdulillah, even in Cardiff we have Sayyids. And in Canada we have Sayyids. All over the world now, there are Sayyids. Alhamdulillah. And the hadith of Imam Al-Rida salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi says, النظر إلى ذرية رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله عبادة. Imam Al-Rida was asked, do you mean النظر إلى الأئمة منكم عبادة? Are you saying that the imams of you, looking at the imam is ibadah? He said, no, all of the progeny, any one of them, any of the sayyid, looking at him is ibadah. So alhamdulillah, as we're sitting in this majlis, try to do as much ibadah as possible. So this way I can divert the attention from myself and somewhere else. But this lady, and as we read in the poem that I just recited, فَسُورَةُ الْكَوْثَرِ اخْتُصَّتْ بِهَا شَرَفًا وَحَسْبُهَا سُورَةٌ تَسْمُو بِعَلْيَاهَا. Surah Al-Kawthar is about الزهراء salamullahi alayha, a short surah, but the meaning of that surah is so deep. This lady was not only a blessing through the children, obviously she provided Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi with, but rather in every aspect of her life. Today we will shed light on 3 aspects of her life and try to relate it in our lives. 1, Fatima salamullahi alayha as a daughter. 2, Fatima salamullahi alayha as a wife. And 3, Fatima salamullahi alayha as a mother. These 3 aspects, inshallah. First of all, Fatima salamullahi alayha as a daughter. We read in Hadith al-Kisa, this beautiful hadith, which is narrated by Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari from Fatima al-Zahra alayha salam. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi comes to Fatima salamullahi alayha. He sends a salam upon her, she sends a salam back. Then he says, إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. قالت له أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. Fatima, I'm feeling not so well. I'm a bit tired. She prays, Ya Allah, oh Father, may Allah keep all difficulties, all harassments away from you. Beautiful dua of this daughter to her father. Indeed, she took a lot of care to her father. When the father came in and told her, I'm tired, she didn't say, go to the medicine cabinet and help yourself. Go. As some children these days talk with their parents. Today we have a problem in the society, and not only us. Not only us, even the Western society is complaining. I remember back in the year 2000, so 14 years ago, in Vancouver, Canada, we have a daily newspaper. In that newspaper, there was an article written by a school counselor. She says, the title of the article was quite catchy. She says, today's society lacks the basics of manners. That was the title. Today's society or today's youth lack the basics of manners. They don't know the basics. Things like saying please. Things like saying thank you. They don't have that concept anymore. This is probably the SpongeBob generation. This generation that's grown up with this cartoons. When people watch, when these children watch these cartoons, then they start talking to their parents in the same way. The father would say something to the daughter, the father would say something to the son. Oh, again? No! No, Dad! I don't want this! وَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا. In this society, this may be acceptable. In Islam, it is not acceptable. Even among the conservatives in the society, this is not acceptable. This is not the way we talk to our parents. It's not the way that we children deal with our parents. With utmost respect. Fatima salamullahi alayha used to say her father, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, coming back from Quraysh, while they stoned him, literally, make him bleed. She would come, and she was only 5 years old. She would hug her father. He comes home feeling bad, tired, sad because his people are not believing in him. He's giving them mercy, rahmah, but they don't believe. She would hug him, comfort him. She would wipe the blood off his body with her little hand. He would take her little hand and kiss her. And he hugs her back and kisses her and says, Ummu abiha fadaha abuha. She's like a mother. She's treating me like a mother would treat her children. May her father be sacrificed for her. Interestingly, Rasulullah is saying this. Now a person might say, well, any father would say something like this to his daughter. That's normal. Every father would look at his children and say, may I be sacrificed for you? No, this is common. We say yes, every father might say that. However, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was not any father. He is a father who the Quran says, وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. Quran itself says, he does not speak of desires. It is but a revelation from Allah. And Ibn Kathir, who is a very famous professor of Quran, read his tafsir in this ayah, وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ Surah Al-Najm, ayah number 3. Read the tafsir. He narrates a hadith from Ibn Umar, where he himself says, Ibn Umar said, I used to write every word the Prophet says, until Quraysh told me, don't do it. He's a human being. He can say something right, he can say something wrong sometimes. He might speak out of emotions. He's a human. So I stopped. But then I went and I told Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I said, Ya Rasulullah, I used to write every word you say, but Quraysh told me not to do so. What do you say, Ya Rasulullah? He says, the Prophet told me, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, go back to writing everything I say. فَوَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ مَا نَطَقْتُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ. I swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I don't speak but the truth. So go back to writing everything I say. Everything is haqq. This man does not speak out of emotions because he's just a father. But rather he is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi. Even as a father, he is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi. First and foremost, he does not speak of desires. He takes care of this little girl, looks after her. And she in turn is an obedient child. She takes care of her father. In this society, now, I went to school in public schools in Canada, and I would assume more or less here would be the same thing. I don't remember once the teachers telling us, be kind to your parents. I don't know about here. If you've been to public school, I don't remember. Maybe some of you might remember. I don't know. I don't remember. Once, they said, be kind to your parents. Listen to your parents. They say, listen to your teacher, because it affects them. Respect your fellow students. Don't bully people. No bullying. They say that. But with regards to parents, nothing. Being virtuous, being kind, nothing. In fact, in 1993, this is now 21 years ago, this is pre-Facebook, pre-internet, before internet was so common. Back then, an American educator by the name of Bennett, he edited a book. The title of the book was The Book of Virtues. Book of Virtues. In it, he chose 10 virtues. Courage, friendship, honesty, loyalty, and so on. 10 virtues, he put them, and each virtue he would put stories, poetry, about each one of these virtues. Now, if you read why he put this book together, how come? What drove him to put it together? He says, the manners and the behaviors of our youth in today's society is so deteriorated that I feel it is necessary parents would go back to reading these beautiful stories that our parents used to read us at bedtime. About virtue, about kindness, about loyalty, about helping people. Sometimes in schools, the poetry that they teach the children to learn, read them. Useless. It doesn't have even essence in it. But nonetheless, this was 20 years ago. He said, I felt it's important I put this book together to help the parents, to teach their children. I wonder what would he say today, 21 years later? This day and age. Being obedient. We learned that important lesson from Al-Zahra salamullahi alayha. Being respectful, being kind. The second lesson we learn from Al-Zahra salamullahi alayha. Her being a wife. As a wife. Imam Ali alayhi salam approaches Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. He says, he comes to him, he sits very shy next to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. The Prophet asks him, what is it, Ya Ali? What do you want? He sits quiet. He's a bit shy to speak. He says, Ya Rasulullah, you know of me, you know about my services to Islam. He says, absolutely, no question. And then he goes quiet again. The Prophet smiles at him. He says, Ya Ali, did you come to me to ask for Fatima's hand in marriage? He looks at Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and says, yes, Ya Rasulullah. He smiled. He said, let me go and ask her opinion. He goes to Fatima salamullahi alayha to ask for her opinion. I mentioned a few days ago, this is really one of the greatest examples of respect Islam gives to women. Even when a man like Ali ibn Abi Talib salamullah alayhi comes to ask for marriage, the father would say, I have to ask for her opinion. It's up to her. She may say yes or she may say no. Even if it's Ali ibn Abi Talib salamullah alayhi. So those who accuse us that you force your daughters to get married, you force them into marriages against their will, we say, if if there is such a practice, it is cultural driven, not religiously driven. Because even our Prophet, when it came to marrying his daughter to the second best of Allah's creation, Ali ibn Abi Talib, salamullahi alayhi, even to him, he did not say, yes, go ahead and she's all yours. He went and asked for her permission. This is religion. We need to distinguish between what some people do and between what the religion actually says. He told her, she smiled. He says, this is her consent. He comes back. And they have a simple marriage. To establish the sunnah, the nikah was recited by the Prophet ﷺ with a very humble dowry, simple lifestyle. Simple. Today, you want to get married, they say, which hotel? Where is the house? I want a Mercedes car. I want to have all these things, and then the boy says, I want to graduate, start earning, make income, pay my loans, pay my debts, and before I retire, inshallah, then we'll think about marriage, inshallah. Before I retire, when I'm 60, 65, by that time, inshallah, I paid my loans, then inshallah, no problem. And the girl would say, yes, I would also like to graduate, start working, depend on my own, and then inshallah, we'll see what happens at that stage. This is not what Islam says. Islam encourages marriage at a young age. 18, 19, whatever is the legal age here. Islam encourages. One reason for this encouragement, I can tell you, is that at the age of 19, 20, the girl has not yet molded in her life, nor has the boy yet shaped in his life. And therefore, as they study together, they graduate together, their life is being shaped together. It's being molded together. Whereas when he is 32, 33, and she is 28, 29, which is the average age right now in Canada for marriage. Today in Canada, the average age for boys is about 33 approximately. For girls, 26, 27 right now. By that age, he's got his life. She's got her life. Sometimes when an argument breaks, they would not be willing to compromise. This is the way I've lived my life for 30 years. Why do you want to change things? Plus, the husband may come, or the wife might come and say, I got a promotion to go to somewhere else, another city. He would say, well, I can't go to that other city. Here I'm a manager. I go there, I have to start all over again. I can't do this. I can't compromise my career. What do you do? Ma'asalama, khalas. Let's go our ways. And this may be one of the reasons why today the divorce rate is about 50%. 50%. You'll be shocked. Even in some Muslim countries, the divorce rate today is at about 50%. Because they've been influenced by such mentalities, such ideologies. That's out of every two couples who get married, one will get split. But let's take a look at this example. At a young age, they get married. يصرخ الشيطان عندما يتزوج المؤمن صغيرا يصرخ ويقول ويل له ويل له. Iblis would shout when a young man gets married or a young girl gets married. It says, woe upon him. Because now he closed a very good door from which I could tempt him. Now that's closed, door is closed. It's shut. And then, look at the marriage. Very simple. The life is simple. The wife is happy with what the husband affords. The husband is happy with what the wife presents and does. He doesn't come into her and say, where is the food? Why haven't you cleaned the house? I've been working all day. I come here, I want food. No food? Get out. He doesn't see that he's left her with 3 monkeys in the house running around, jumping up and down and things like this. Once I had a person come to me and he says, I want to divorce my wife. Why? I come home, the house is not clean. She says, Wallah, I try my best. But what do I do? Look, here's my children, see. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. يعني. شفتوا أولادنا احنا ما شاء الله شلون قاعدين ما شاء الله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. إيه الله يعطيهم الصحة والعافية يعني ما شاء الله. لو واحد يمشي ياكلوه هو وعدل هالشكل ما شاء الله اللهم صل على محمد ما شاء الله جيد. يعني الحمد لله هذا نوع من الذكاء لعله نوع من الذكاء حركة هذه. She said, this is my children here, look at what. I try my best, but I can't. I clean here, they mess there. I clean there, they mess here. I can't do much. And when the day is over, they go to sleep, I'm exhausted from running after them all day long. So, sometimes we have this kind of problems in our lives. Simple life, simple, between this lady and her husband. Imam Ali alayhi salam sometimes used to come into the house, no food. 3 days they give their food away for a poor person, a destitute, for an orphan, for a prisoner. ويطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا إنا نخاف من ربنا يوما عبوسا قمطريرا فوقاهم الله شر ذلك اليوم ولقاهم نظرة وسرورا. 3 days, no food. She does not complain. Ya Ali, why do you give up all the food? No. This is the akhlaq of the supportive wife. She's content. She's happy with whatever she has. This is Fatima Salamullahi alayha as a wife. Fatima Salamullahi alayha as a mother. What a great mother she was. Children, my dear brothers and my dear sisters, require a lot of attention. It is easy for the parents to turn on the television for the children and let them just watch from morning till night. That's easy because they keep you headache-less. But what is the television teaching them? Is SpongeBob teaching them to respect their parents? Do these cartoons teach them to respect their parents? Does it teach them akhlaq? No, it doesn't. We have a responsibility. Sitting down with them, speaking to them, playing with them, it has a huge impact on the child. In Risalat al-Huquq by Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, he says among the rights of a child is that you name him a good name. It's one right. Good name. One day a brother told me the story. He said, I went to Iraq, somewhere in the south Iraq. I went to visit a friend of mine in southern Iraq. I was sitting down with him, then he calls his daughter. Come, Baba, Christina, come say salam to Ammu. Christina? What is a Christina? Ajib. Here in this part of town, in the country, what is a Christina? He looks at me and he says, why? What's wrong? I said, Christina. In this city, who names Christina? He looks at me and he says, أصبحتم بس أنتم مثقفين هناك عايشين. This person thinks ثقافة, education is by naming his daughter Christina. هذه المأساة مالتنا واقعا نحن أحيانا. هذا اللي ناخذه من الغرب. This girl, she goes to school. If she goes to school, her friends will ask her, what is your name? Each one is Zainab, Fatma, Kada, and Christina. Who named you? What is Christina? What does your name mean? She may say, oh Allah, I don't know what my name is. No, one day, when asked why, it turns out she's a character in one of the soap operas that they have, mashallah. And instead of naming his daughter after Fatima al-Zahra alayha salam, after Zainab, Khadija, Ruqayya, those beautiful names, or some of the names in the Quran, some of the beautiful names that we have so many. He chooses the soap opera, the character in there, to name his daughter or her daughter after him. It's a huge problem. Naming him a good name or naming her a good name, a name to be proud of. Then teaching him or her about the ahkam of their religion. Television does not teach them that. I've come across a case, a boy at the age of 17. He did not know anything about that ghusl which he has to do. He's never heard of it. Never. If he became baligh at the age of 15, maybe sooner, but I don't know, but 15 the latest, it means for the past 2 years, his rituals that he was performing had a question mark. Who's responsible? We need to spend time with our children, teaching them. It does not come easy. Isa ibn Maryam salamullahi alayh one day was walking by a cemetery, Maqbara. He told Allah, he said, Ya Allah, I want to hear and listen what's going on in that cemetery. Can you please allow me to listen? He said, sure. Allah allowed him to listen. One of the voices of those people being tortured, punished, in the qabr caught his attention. One person was shouting from the punishment of the grave. وَعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ الْقَبْرُ رَوْضَةٌ مِّن رِيَاضِ الْجَنَّةِ أَوْ حُفْرَةٌ مِّن حُفَرِ النَّارِ وَعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. This person was being punished. Isa salamullah alayhi keeps on going. A year later, Isa salamullah alayhi walks back by the same cemetery. He says, Ya Allah, can you make me listen again, please? Allah allows him to listen. What's going on? He turns to Allah and said, Ya Rab, last year when I walked by this cemetery, I listened to a voice that caught my attention. He was being punished severely. This year I don't hear his voice, Ya Allah. What happened? How come? I don't hear him anymore. Allah replied, قال يا روح الله. He has a son who is pious, a mu'min. His son prays to me in the middle of the night. His son prays to me in the middle of the night. And he says, رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيَّ وَارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. Oh Allah, forgive my father. I know he was not the best of men, but forgive him. Ya Allah. And he would cry at night in his salat. He said, Ya Ruh Allah, دعاني عبدي حتى استحييت من أن لا أستجيب له. He prayed to me until I was embarrassed not to accept his dua. Now maybe his father was a believer. He was a believer, but not a very good one. He may have done certain things in his life. With the blessing of the dua of the son, Allah forgave the father. We want to teach the same thing to our children, to remember us. Sometimes you see some fathers, they work day and night. He leaves when the children are asleep, he comes back when the children are asleep. And you ask him, why you're doing this? Your children need you. He says, well, I'm doing all this for them. I'm doing it all for them. For them what? Oh, so I could buy them good clothes, good cars when they grow up. I buy them a big house. What's the point of all this? When they will not look at me when I grow older. When they not even know how to read the Quran when they grow older. What's the point of it all? We need to teach them the Quran, teach them the ahkam, salat, siyam, wudu, ghusl. To the best of our ability, let's take them to ziyarah, to the Ma'sumeen alayhim as-salam if we can afford it. Take them there. Attend the majalis of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. All these are important aspects. When it comes to television, these days, alhamdulillah, we have so many channels that are on the path of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. Even children's shows are present these days from the path of Ahlul Bayt. Let us play this to them. Let them watch this. There are options. Fatima al-Zahra alayha salam used to pray Salatul Layl and keep Hassan and Hussein and Zainab alayha salam and Umm next to her. That's why this hadith is narrated by both Imam al-Hassan and Zainab salamullahi alayha. It could be at the same incident or different incidents, where she would pray the whole night remembering the neighbors. Zainab salamullahi alayha and Imam al-Hassan alayhi asked their mother, "Mother, you remember the neighbors, what about us?" She said, "Al-jar thumma ad-dar." First you remember the neighbors, then we remember ourselves. This got stuck in the children's mind. That's why 50 years later, Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam says, I saw my aunt Zainab on the eve of the 11th of Muharram, Laylat al-Hadi Ashar min al-Muharram, praying Salatul Layl that night. After all the difficulties she experienced, she would not let go of Salat. Why? Because that's what her mother taught her when she was a little girl. Zainab was about 5 years, salamullahi alayha, when her mother died. But she engraved her, Al-ilmu fi al-saghar kal-naqshi fi al-hajar. It's engraved up here. This is what she taught her children. She taught her children to give. We can teach our children these akhlaq. That when you talk to people, talk with kindness, talk with virtue. Always be respectful, obedient. Help others. When Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein alayhim salam saw their parents giving to the poor and the orphan and the prisoner 3 days in a row, this developed this sense of giving to the point where Imam al-Hussein salamullah gave his life for the sake of Islam. ألا إن الدعي ابن الدعي قد ركز بين اثنتين بين السلة والذلة وهيهات منا الذلة يأبى الله لنا ذلك ورسوله والمؤمنون وحجور طابت وحجور طهرت. Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad wants us either to live in humility or die in dignity. And we refuse to live in humiliation. This goes against the teachings of Allah and Rasulullah and my father, Amir al-Mu'minun here is referring to Amir al-Mu'minin salamullahi alayhi. And my mother, Hujurun tabat wa hujurun tahurat. My mother taught me this 50 years later. Al-Sahib ibn Abbad. Al-Sahib ibn Abbad used to be a minister, wazir, كان وزيرا. قبل أكثر من 1000 سنة في الدولة البويهية. He was a minister. Sahib ibn Abbad every night would put one golden dinar, one golden coin, under his pillow. And he would go to sleep. In the morning, he takes out that golden coin and he gives it in sadaqah. He was asked, where did you learn this from? He said, my mother taught me this when I was little. Since I was a boy, my mother taught me, she said, son, always help the poor, help others. I want you to do this every night. So I learned my lesson until today. Every day I put a golden coin and I take it out and give it out in sadaqah. How about we have a small jar in the house and we tell our children every day you take a little bit amount of money, whatever you can afford, even if it's 1 pence, even if it's 1 pence. It's the habit. If you can afford a pound, you add a pound. More, less, no problem. Every day. Take one and put it in this jar. This goes to the poor. You instill the sense of learning into the person. These are some aspects about this noble lady. Some of the kawthar that she has given us. Al-khayrul kathir. Fatima as a daughter, Fatima as a wife, Fatima salamullahi alayha as a mother. If we can try to implement some of her teachings in our lives, implement some of this ibadah of al-Zahra in our lives, it would be great. One of the ulama, he says, I had a migraine. I was healthy, I was studying, everything was fine. All of a sudden, I was struck with this migraine. This migraine was so painful. I would not be able to study anymore. I would not be able to read anymore. I would become paralyzed when it hits me. I went to see doctors, he says, in the city of Qom, in the city of Tehran, in the city of Shiraz. I went to see 11 doctors, he says, 11, not 1 or 2, 11. Each one gives me a prescription of some sort. Nothing worked. Sometimes the pain might decrease temporarily, but then it hits me back again. One day I went to pray Salatul Jama'ah behind one of the Maraja. A friend of mine was also a alim. He looked at me, he saw me very tired. I looked weak, looked tired. He said, what is the matter? I said, this has been my problem for the past so many months. I just have not been able to sleep. I can't sleep. I can't work, I can't do anything because of this migraine. And I've seen so many doctors, no help. My friend told me, it's good you've seen these doctors, but don't forget, we have doctors who are the best of doctors. He said, I understood what he said, what he meant. Then he added, he said, Tawassal bil-Zahraء salamullahi alayha. Ask Fatima, salamullahi alayha. Inshallah, you'll get your hajjah. He said, at that moment I thought, my God, how could I not think of this? SubhanAllah. Even the ulama need maw'idah sometimes. Even the alim needs maw'idah, admonishment. That's why, brothers and sisters, I say, try to always attend the majalis of Ahlul Bayt, alayhim as-salam. Always. Because you never know. One ayah, one hadith, one story, it could revive the heart again. It could solve the problem. Many of us have difficulties in our lives. In fact, if each and every one of us, if you go around right now, each one will tell you, I have one problem. Either with my studies I have a problem, at my university I have a problem, financially I have a problem, psychologically, and so on and so forth. Each and every one of us, you go around, we all have problems. We need to work hard to solve them. Of course, they said in Insani illa ma sa'a. We do have to do that. But at the same time, don't forget, we have Allah and Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. We have those people. We turn to them for help. Bi-idhnillah ta'ala, of course. This alim says, how could I forget? He's right. I came out of the salat, after the salat, I went to the haram of السيدة Fatima al-Ma'suma, Ukht al-Imam al-Rida salamullahi alayha. And I started to cry and calling Fatima الزهراء alayha salam. He said, Ya Mawlati, Ya Sayyidati, Ya Fatima, Ya Bint Rasulullah, I am in difficulty, help me. This migraine has been bothering me. Help me. He says, I went back home, I sat down and I continued to pray and cry. Then after some time I became tired, so I fell asleep. In my dream, I saw that I was sitting in a majlis of Fatima al-Zahra alayha salam, just like you, mu'mineen and mu'minat, just like you. This kind of majlis, inshaAllah. I was sitting in such a majlis. Then one of the sayyids in the majlis got up. He came to me and said, Ya Shaykh, qudiyat hajatuk. A sayyid in the majlis got up. He said, it's done. Ya Shaykh, your problem has been solved. Apparently he prayed wholeheartedly. He prayed from his heart. We sometimes pray, but not from our heart. He prayed from his heart. Shaykh b'shay yudhkar, I don't want to get away from the story, but there is a salat in Mafatih al-Jinan known as Salatul Istighatha bil-Sayyida الزهراء salamullahi alayha. Istighatha. You pray 2 rak'at salat, qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala, just like Salat al-Fajr, 2 rak'at. Then after that, you put your forehead on the turba and you say 100 times, Ya Sayyidati, Ya Mawlati, Ya Fatimatu Aghithini. Then you put your right hand cheek on the turba and say the same thing 100 times. Then your left